Us Marvel geeks are completely spoiled because we not just got WandaVision for 8 weeks, we're getting the Falcon the Soldier for 6 weeks now. And this first episode was a total blast, not just with exhilarating action set pieces, but with a personal touch in there when it comes to Sam and Bucky himself, with the PTSD and the family elements of what happens when you disappear after 5 years. How does that work? I'm so excited to be discussing this episode with you guys, and just like with WandaVision, my favorite part is hearing your guys' thoughts down below in the comments section. It's late at night, we're all crazy to be staying up, but I'm staying up with you guys to discuss this episode again in full spoiler details, so make sure to comment down below, let me know your guys' thoughts, your theories, what will be coming about out of all this. Who was that guy at the very end who kicked that soldier's ass? He looked to have superpowers. Who knows? We're going to be very interested in that. I already have my theory on who that could be, and I know we already learned that theories aren't the best thing to do because of WandaVision, because all my theories didn't come true at all, but it's still fun to theorize, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts, as well as hit that like and subscribe, and if you guys enjoy types of fun videos like this where we can just keep talking Marvel stuff, and just movies and TV on a general basis. Overall, let's start this review. Opening up, this episode opens up with a great action sequence. You have the Falcon, he's going flying in. Well, first off, you get him, he has the shield. And, it feels very personal. You feel, where is this going about? How is this going about? And I really liked seeing him zip up the shield. And actually, you have old Cap from the end of Endgame saying, "This is yours now." You hear that through those phrases. And that's something that, again, hit me in the soft spot. Because when he passed the shield over to him in Avengers Endgame, it was an emotional moment. Especially something for us as fans who have been really wanting to look at this. And for me, the Falcon, well, yes, I would have loved if Sebastian Stan also got the mantle. As the movies have played out, the Falcon's the one for me that deserves it. And I think Anthony Mackie as an actor is someone who's really going to be able to take this to that next level. I think over the last couple of years in Hollywood especially, he has been chartering away, hitting each and every role, and now being able to finally debut and really show off his acting capabilities in his own show is awesome. And I really do hope he actually gets a movie as the actual Captain America later down the road, but we'll see if that happens. He completely deserves it. And, Sebastian Stan, great actor as well. He deserves his own stuff too. That's why I'm just so happy that they're getting their own series. But, opens up, great action sequences. He jumps out of the plane, flies around. It's very exhilarating, like I mentioned, and just superb to see how he's flying, going about, and they really much honed in that action stuff with the Falcon, the way that the wings fly over to cover him from the bullets, the way that he used the jet thing to move him back and forth and just punch people. It's just freaking awesome. But someone I didn't expect to see in here is the Leaper. George St. Pierre is back from the Winter Soldier. He's kicking some ass. He's da-da-da-da. But the Falcon comes out overall. And, just as an opening action sequence, it definitely gets you in. It sets the mood, sets the tone that this is very much going to feel more grounded and very much feel like Winter Soldier, something that we all love. Because, the Winter Soldier is one of the best movies in the MCU. I think we can all definitely agree with that. But some great moments in there. But what it really comes down to is this episode, even though it has that great action set piece with Falcon, and the way that I'm really going to structure this episode is talking about Falcon, then Bucky, because, well, they haven't met yet. We already know they know each other, but they haven't gotten together yet. There's some interesting aspects that come down to both of them and what happens during the blip and what happens after the aftermath of Avengers Endgame that I'm really interested in talking about and discussing, because when it comes to these Marvel shows now, just like we got with WandaVision, it's really interesting to see how they really furthered Wanda as a character. And now in the Falcon Winter Soldier, they're going to be doing the same thing with two of the main characters that have been fan favorites, but for the most part have been very surface level attempts of making us care about them. But already in one episode, I'm already way more invested with both of them than I ever was before, and especially within their characters. Now, going a little bit more with Falcon, we see this little army buddy that he has, some Torres that he has a nice relationship with, that ends up tying at the end when he goes to that weird terrorist type thing with everyone wearing the mask, kind of hinting at a little bit of Zemo, which we have not seen yet. And that's going to be kind of interesting who kicked his ass. I have my own theory again that we're going to discuss that. But the big thing for me, and before jumping to the end, is getting the little bit to know Falcon's, Sam Wilson himself, get to know his family. We get to meet his sister. Now, I'm not versed within his comics, so I don't know anything about his family, his sister. This thing was interesting to see the chemistry that they really much shared with one another on the screen, and it really does feel like a brother-sister relationship. Seeing the friends and everyone coming back around him was very touching, and I loved all those little moments, and just seeing how the Falcon, and of course, Sam Wilson himself, just seeing how that all goes. Even just going, one of the things that Marvel didn't have to do, but they did, was when he goes to try and get a loan with his sister, and the guy, of course, I think I've seen you somewhere, obviously notices in there, hey, I'm the Falcon. You know, yes, that's how our world would be too. If Tony Stark walked in, or Iron Man, or Cap, you know, you'd be like, oh my god, you're Captain America, you're Iron Man, you know, you'd freak out, because in this world, they are celebrities, but it kind of opens up the thing of, I was gone for 5 years. I have no income, of course, for the 5 years. The guy can't really do anything. They are very strict line in there, which is completely bullshit. Sorry, pardon my French. But it's really interesting to see how they're able to play and put in those personal moments that I don't think everyone's going to, like, really appreciate, but I really did, and I wasn't expecting just that subtle layer. And it even brings up the purpose. Who pays you? You know, it's for the goodwill. You are a superhero. You're not getting paid. But I found that to be interesting that they were able to really touch into that aspect and show a more personal level that, yeah, while he is a superhero and he's a part of the Avengers, he's not just doing it for money. He's doing it because he enjoys it. He wants to save people. And that's something that I really much love about Sam Wilson as a character, and the way that Anthony Mackie is able to play him as well. It's very interesting. Of course, those elements keep adding about and playing about until the very end of this episode, which for me was kind of the big ball drop of it all. The Falcon himself, you know, he's at home. Him and his sister kind of got in an argument, but they're sitting there, and she goes, Sam, you need to watch this. Because in the earlier episode, part of this, he gave the shield back to the government saying, hey. And, you know, in his head, I feel like I understand, Sam understands that I'm not the next Captain America. I am the Falcon. The only Captain America I know is Steve Rogers, which is kind of something that a lot of us kind of know as well. But if you know the comic lore, you know all that stuff, Sam Wilson is one of the versions of Captain America. But the big thing that comes here, which was nice to see Don Cheadle show up. I knew he was going to be in the show. I didn't expect this early, though. And it was really interesting to see how he comes about. Of course, gives the shield to the Smithsonian. They kind of have this nice walk, which again, you see Bucky's face in there. You see all these nice things that Captain America has done, and really much throwing back to the original Captain America movie, as well as the Winter Soldier. All those elements as well. And again, just playing in a post-Avengers Endgame world, it's always interesting for me to think that, you know, just a couple months ago, you were fighting space aliens. Now you're back on the boots in the ground. It's just interesting to see how, like, grounded they can go back to when we know their past. We know what they fought. We know what they did at Avengers Endgame and Infinity War and all sorts of things like that. But that discussion with Don Cheadle's character, the War Machine, why can I not think of what he's actually... Rhodey, his name's Rhodey. Having that discussion with Rhodey was a nice, interesting touch. And again, touching in to more of the cinematic universe, but not making it feel like it's forced. It feels so realistic that, yes, they would be in that same room, but passes the mantle, and we already knew they were going to do him dirty. We already knew Sam Wilson was going to get dirty because the government wanted that shield for another different reason. They're watching TV, and yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck that government official that took his shield, because then they walk out and they're like, the new Captain America! And for me, I know nothing about this character from the comics. This is stuff that I am not versed in at all, but wow, you know, yeah, this is going to be an interesting character. Wyatt Russell, from my understandings, is playing them, and I'm really interested to see how they do. That was a big ball drop by the end of this episode to see how that really came about. And yeah, Sam Wilson got completely screwed in there, and I'm sure you guys all feel the exact same way as I do within that. Jumping over to Bucky, though, with that giant ball drop, I probably should have flipped it and talked more about Bucky. Bucky, you know, we had that great flashback of him as the Winter Soldier, and once I saw him with the long hair, I'm like, wait, he has shorter hair. This is not the Bucky we know and love right now. Of course, it ends up being that it's just him having his PTSD moment, and he wakes up out of it and goes to his therapist thing. And that therapist discussion, you know, could have ended up being cheesy, but it was actually really well done, and she makes a lot of good points to what is going on with Bucky's life, and I really like how they're playing about it. And his conversation was saying that I went to a war, to another war, got a little bit of peace and calm in Wakanda, but then woke up and went to another war. And that's an element that we don't really think about. He is really, you know, being mind controlled for all those years, and then finally getting to this, and then going back to war and losing one of his closest friend. He has no one in this. When she takes his phone, she goes, why aren't you replying back to Sam? That is another thing. Why aren't you replying back to Sam? But I'm happy to see that Sam is reaching out, because that is the type of character I expect him to be. Now, we learn that he is writing off his amends and who he's trying to amend and appease and all to those elements. We see what he does with that girl in the car, and that was a fun little element as well. Of course, we get to his friend who looks like he's kind of protecting him. We're like, oh, who's this guy he's having banter with? yeah, we kind of already know where that's going. You know, they have this nice little dinner, gets him a date, all those elements, and of course on the date, something kind of hits him and he leaves, and he goes to meet him and he sees the kid's face, and I'm like, you killed him, didn't you? That's what I'm theorizing for the most part. Poor Bucky. You know, he has this great relationship, but I'm probably one of his only closest friends right now, and it's not turning out to be so great. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's someone thing he wants to figure out is what happened to him, but it's going to be very heartbreaking to see how that ends up coming out to be. I loved this first episode. I think what they were able to do is, again, have that great action with both heroes, in fact, in some way, shape, or form. Give us some of that badass stuff that we know we're going to expect that we're going to get. But I'm happy to see that it's just not all that. I'm a person who loves story, who loves the personal touches when we get to know these characters more. And, you know, getting to know them more in this episode, just finding out more about Sam Wilson and his family, seeing what happened with the blip and how that affects him now as a hero was really interesting. And the ball drop of someone else becoming Captain America, oh God. I'm really interested to see how they are able to take that a little bit more. And as well, jumping into, of course, Bucky Barnes himself and seeing the PTSD that he is struggling with. It's all so very interesting. And it's also nice to not have a please stand by me like ending. Like, I knew when this episode was going to end. It didn't seem like it was just ending, cliffhanger. It ended in a perfect manner that gets me super excited for next week's episode. But at the same time, but so excited to have more Marvel content in my life. And I'm sure all of you guys are feeling that exact same way. So make sure to comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts on this episode. What are your theories? What are your thoughts? Hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoy this type of stuff, because I love doing it every single week, staying up this late to have a bunch of fun with you guys. This is my second time watching the episode, and I'm so excited to be here with all you guys. So thank you again so much for clicking on this. And of course, guys, make sure to head on over to Sam from Films on how to see films right. And of course, it's a big thing to you and a big thing to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. So, of course, until next time, stay classy.